Just a minute. Mr. Andrew, Mr. Andrew is also a best friend. Also, he came in our webinar, and he's from UK. And Mr. Grant, I have a last question for you. That if I want to set up my own farm, if I am going to set up my own farm, what kind of things and what kind of recommendations do you think that we needs if we are going to set up our own farm?
One needs to look at the design of of a farm. Imran, and I'm going to say this clearly. One needs to look at that design, and why do I say that? Is because of disease. One needs to look carefully at how that close those houses are together. You design a farm and you say, right, I'll put up a layer house and another layer house and another layer house, another layer house. But if biosecurity doesn't play a large role in the design of your farm, I can assure you now that you're going to end up with trouble later. I have seen it personally where this has happened. And the design of the farm has affected the entire farm when disease has hit. I've been on a 400,000 layer unit, where avian flu came in and wiped out the entire farm. They had to restart that entire farm. So what are we looking at? We're looking at a farm which needs to be isolated away from other farms as much as possible, and as at the same time accessible to markets. You don't want it a million miles away from a market where your costs are for getting your product, your eggs to the market. So there's a number of things which I would look at in designing a farm. And fully automation, biosecurity is crucial to it. I've seen some nice designs in farms, but I wouldn't put all my eggs in one more basket, as they say. And that's not putting all my layers. If you want to build your farm, and you're going to say to me, okay, how big do we want it? Do you want it as a 200,000 layer unit, as one farm? Because if that's what you'd like to do, I'm going to say, right, then put 200,000 layers on one farm and find another farm and put up another 200,000 layers elsewhere. Why do I say that? Keeping it away from disease. And disease is becoming a big problem, as you well know. It's a big issue. Avian influenza has a major effect on the industry. And it's one of the things which I love to discuss, because I was with a farm which had avian influenza. And I was also on a farm that vaccinates for avian influenza. And they are successful. They are very successful. But I cannot understand governments. There are certain governments in countries that don't allow vaccination of avian influenza. But yes, in coming back to what you asked regarding starting up a new farm, I wouldn't put all my eggs in one basket and expand it into one massive farm, which I've seen South Africa, I've seen it in Nigeria as well. Dangerous.
No, if I am a newcomer and I want to start a new layer cages farm, just like the first farm, only one farm, 50,000 bird. So what we need to do?
Imran, if you're going to get a 50,000 birds, I would actually split that into, if he has the capital, and we are talking now, he's been allocated enough capital to build the houses of design that he wants, the cages, the equipment, everything of what he wants. Then I would split that 50,000 into 25,000 and 25,000 to make it viable. Those two.
No, I have a money. and I have a capital for the 50,000.
Yep.
What kind of things, what kind of special requirement I need? That's my question. That what kind
What
of
special?
land we
What special?
need, what kind of land we need, what kind of breed we want to put in our farm, and what kind of special recommendations if you are going to set up a new farm.
Special recommendations of that form need to be. I mean, I don't. I mean, I would try and look at. I would look at the markets, the dynamics of your markets. I think it's important to know that where you have to, where you're going to put your product, and how quickly can you get it out and sold. The faster you can get it out and sold, the better it is. And you need to do that. But one doesn't need to be close to other poultry units in doing that. That I'm going to say is trying. You've got to try and keep away from that. There are
Yes.
certain things which that I think need to be looked at holistically, if I can say it, or, as a farm. We did it here, Imran. I'm going to give you an example. What we did here in South Africa on one of the farms is we expanded our business, but we split the business. When I say split, we took the sites elsewhere. We took those new sites completely away. And I'm talking now 12 to 15 kilometers away. But they were
Right.
still accessible to the markets. And they were still accessible to the pack station and to the feed mill, because we had a feed mill. So everything was in an area which, if you can understand what I'm saying, although if we got a disease on the one farm, with biosecurity, we could at least limit it to the other farm, which was 12, 15 kilometers away.
Oh, that's good. And what about what is the best system if I am going for cages? What you recommend the best system for of the cages in the world?
Very interesting question. I know of two systems which I like. I like Big Dutchman and I like Techno.
The second is
Um, Techno. You've
techno.
heard of
Okay.
Techno, yeah. Techno have um, designed their equipment very well as well. I think it's a matter of looking at it and seeing which way you want to look. And when I say that, the efficiency of the cages, feeders, what do you want? Do you want gantry or do you want chain feeders? Big Dutchman offer you a very good chain feeder, and Techno offer you a very good gantry feeder. Um, in response to the manure removal and drying of the manure, that depends on your ventilation again, but both cages do equally well. I cannot fault them. Again, it's those are the two equipments that I like. They're very robust, and the spares are they seem to last. Where I've used Big Dutchman and I've used Techno, and I certainly, it would be up to you as the owner to make that decision which way you would like to go.
And regarding the feeding system, what do you think? The feed wagon is the best, the auger system is the best, or the chain system is the best for the layer cages?
I like the chain feeder. I'm very pro for chain feeder. But one must remember here, this is something which with my experience, Imran, of using both the chain feeder and the gantry. Your feed, we're going to come back to feed now. The feed I used on my feed mill we used an 8mm sieve. Now, the reason why 8mm, and you're going to probably say to me, but 8mm is quite big. Yes, it is. It's coarse. There's a good reason why. From the feed mill, you had augers that augered that feed through and out. Then we used to auger it from the truck into the tank, and then it used to get augered into the chicken house. Then on the chain feeder, it gets taken around the poultry house. So by the time that all of those has happened, that 8mm has decreased, as you can well imagine. It's gone down. So I used an 8mm sieve for that, but feed consumption wise, I found that the 8mm was very good. I got very good feed consumptions, and I'm talking of 110 to 108 grams feed intake. On the gantry, you'll get the same. You should get the same. I'm not going to say you're not going to get the same. It's just that if you really want a preference, I just prefer the chain feeder. And then on the limestone, yes, I used for limestone. I was very fortunate to get a very coarse limestone. A lot of people use a very fine limestone, IMRAN. They use 2mm. I used a 4mm to 5mm diameter limestone. And the reason being is when your birds get older, and you've probably noted this, when the birds get older, at roughly 50, 60 weeks, your shell quality diminishes. And you start getting a lot of poor shell quality, you get poor shell quality coming through. And now you're wondering why. Is there enough lime in the feed? That's probably your first question. Is there sufficient lime? Well, the problem is that the bird, because it's fine, the lime gets taken into the bird and passes through the bird fairly quickly. But when it's young, it can digest that lime fairly easily. The older the bird gets, it doesn't. It just puts it back into the manure. Whereas the limestone, if you get a limestone the size of, let's say, 4mm, 5mm, it sits in the crop of the bird. And it releases very slowly. And it goes into the shell of the egg. And therefore, you can maintain your shell quality for a lot longer. To tell you the honest truth, I've seen birds that have gone to 100 weeks of age, 100 weeks of age with that kind of limestone. And the shell quality was still excellent.